If I seize its innate talent and then breathe life, it would be somewhat unbecoming of me. Sighing in his heart, Wuxia pushed away the idea of plundering the Tree of Life's innate talent. As a being of his status, there was one thing he truly cared about, a concept known as the Tao heart. Since he had reservations, he did not need to forcibly take it. Besides, he already possesses many innate talents, so many that he did not even have enough time to develop them. If he were to seize yet another innate talent, it would be too much. At least, Wuxia told himself this to suppress the desire of seizing this innate talent. However, this did not mean Wuxia had given up on this terrifying innate talent. After all, there were multiple ways to achieve the same result. Keeping other possibilities aside, Wuxia had already thought of an excellent method. I can capture the Tree of Life, and by continuously refining it, I can turn it into a sentient artifact. As he murmured in his heart, Wuxia's eyes gleamed. In the previous era, weapons refined from divine trees were not unheard of. In fact, there were many. The most famous among them was wielded by an eternal realm transcendent, an extreme Tao artifact known as the Seven-Jewel Tree. Nothing in this world could escape it. Its terrifying power was such that even those of the same realm deeply feared it. If I truly refine it into a sentient artifact, it would be far better than merely plundering its innate talent. Wuxia made up his mind and sheepishly grinning. He decided that after refining the Tree of Life into a sentient artifact, its master would be none other than the Azure Dragon, the natural sacred being born from Wuxia's primary root. Currently, aside from his main body, Wuxia has 3 other bodies. One is the soaring purple flood dragon, transformed from his secondary root, the cosmic root. It carried a faint chance of bearing the principle of infinity. As of now, it possessed the Titan bloodline and had even devoured the body of a void behemoth. Another was the void elf body, which had just recently evolved from the king of sea beasts, the Dark Willow. It possessed spatial talent with unlimited potential. And the last one, of course, was the Azure Dragon, the natural sacred being transformed from the primary root, bearing the principle of life, which aligned perfectly with the Tree of Life. If the Tree of Life could indeed be refined into a sentient artifact, who else would it serve as a natal weapon but the Azure Dragon? After all, Wuxia's main body already has a Tao-protecting artifact, the Radiant Galaxy. The Void Elf had its natal weapon, the Star Bow. As for the soaring purple flood dragon with its Titan bloodline, its body was already its most formidable weapon. Considering all this, it became quite apparent that the Azure Dragon, born from the main root, lacked a decent weapon. With a smile in his heart, Wuxia's gaze turned towards several figures approaching from a distance, his eyes flickering. Especially when he looked at the small emerald green tree standing on the shoulder of the Elf Queen, Wuxia's gaze grew playful, like a predator sizing up its prey. At this moment, the small emerald green tree on the Elf Queen's shoulder could not help but shiver. A chilling sensation, indescribable in words, suddenly crept into its heart. What's wrong? Noticing the Tree of Life's unease, the Elf Queen softly inquired. I have a bad feeling, the Tree of Life frowned in response. For some reason, as it drew closer to the colossal tree that seemed capable of supporting the starry sky from afar, the ominous feeling in its heart grew stronger. But then, as if thinking of something, it turned its gaze toward the 3 figures bathed in holy light not far away. Are you sure your methods will work? Of course, patting his chest, the god of orcs, also known as the god of war, confidently assured, we 3 are native gods born of Alicia and can draw its power. Though we might not dare claim we can defeat this unknown true god, sealing it is certainly not a problem. Indeed. Beside him, the playful-looking god of dreams, trailing the starlight, added, the god of orcs never boasts. If he says he can do it, then he surely can. That's good to hear. Nodding, the Tree of Life grew a bit more confident. If we can seal this unknown true god, then this war would likely come to an end. After all, to capture the bandits, first we need to capture their leader. Once the leader is gone, the motley crowd would naturally pose no threat to us. As the thought crossed its mind, the Tree of Life's spiritual energy surged as a verdant halo spread from it, enveloping several figures within it. Boom! In an instant, amidst the thunderous roars, the aura of the figures within the emerald halo surged dramatically. Ha! The god of orcs burst into a raucous laughter and shouted in an unusual excitement, truly worthy of the renowned Tree of Life. Your ability is beyond words. With you here, I even dare to challenge this true god one-on-one. Don't be careless. I can only keep you at the true god realm for a short time. Moreover, we still don't know what kind of abilities this true god possesses or what level of existence it is. The Tree of Life's tone grew tense, showing signs of worry. No matter. Trust me, this universe had yet given birth to a true God that is too powerful. Remember? It's already unusual for a true God to appear now. If one with heaven-defying combat power were to emerge, then we just have to admit defeat. With these words, the god of orcs surged with spiritual energy as he transformed into a golden stream of light, rushing toward the far end of the starry sky. Not bad at all. Gazing at the terrifying axe that seemed to cleave through the starry sky, coming hurling at him in the distance, Wuxia could MPT help but offer rare praise. The god of orc was undoubtedly the most powerful opponent Wuxia had ever encountered. Even by himself he had already reached the peak of Tier 4, almost stepping into Tier 5. And armed with a divine artifact that contained a bit of world quintessence, he was a renowned god in his own right. That was not even taking into account the support of a half-step Tier 5 entity like the Tree of Life. It could be said that this god of orcs' combat strength had already surpassed Tier 4, reaching the heights of Tier 5, and was even a notch above others at Tier 5. From Wuxia's perspective, if this axe were to land on a small celestial body like the moon, it would probably split it in two with ease. Unfortunately, the god of orcs was facing a monster that ranked among the most powerful in the entire universe. Wuxia's dozens of roots twisted together, forming a staff several thousand meters long. As spiritual energy surged through it, the entire staff emitted a verdant glow. The next moment, the staff swept fiercely through the starry sky, silently tearing through space, creating ripples tens of thousands of meters long. It then collided head-on with the massive golden axe blade, formed from divine energy, that spanned tens of thousands of meters. Boom! A massive explosion shook the space as two terrifying shockwaves rippled across the starry sky. One shockwave resembled a vast golden ocean, the other transformed into boundless emerald ripples. How can it be so strong? In shock, the god of orcs trembled violently. He slowly raised his right hand, looking at the web between his thumb and forefinger which had split open. However, before it could tear further, the power of the Tree of Life surged, healing the wound in just a breath or two. But this time, the god of orcs, the Tree of Life, and the other Elysian powerhouses all gazed at Wuxia with a newfound sense of awe. With just a single swing of his root, he had blocked their long-prepared thunderous strike. This is no ordinary true god. Gritting his teeth, the god of orcs once again raised his giant axe, his entire body transforming into a golden stream of light as he charged straight at Wuxia. Following him, the god of dreams, the god of nature, and even the elf queen, among other Elysian powerhouses, also transformed into streams of light, rushing toward Wuxia one after another. Do these fools really think I'm going to fight them head-on? Watching them charging toward him, Wuxia could not help but find it amusing. Should I call them straightforward or just plain foolish? Although Wuxia had the absolute power to suppress them in a direct confrontation, there were too many variables at play, and he had no desire to complicate matters. After all, these were unknown powerhouses. While Wuxia could see their status screen, some of their trump cards remained hidden. More importantly, Wuxia was well aware of numerous instances where exceptionally powerful villains had the tables turned on them by unforeseen events. The movies and anime from my previous life have done a good job of teaching lessons regarding this. With a sigh, spiritual energy surged around Wuxia. Immediately, accompanied by a thunderous roar, under the stunned gaze of the god of orcs and the other Elysian powerhouses, the 9 vortices of different colors swirling around the towering tree suddenly paused. At the same time, a vortex shrouded in dense white mist began to expand. In just a few breaths, it grew into a portal as large as a towering gateway, standing tall in the starry sky. What's that? I have a bad feeling about this. One after another, the god of orcs, the Tree of Life, and the other powerhouses' expressions changed. But then, in the blink of an eye, the mist-covered portal trembled violently as countless eye-like objects began to slowly open within the portal, leaving everyone in shock and disbelief. Upon closer inspection, each of those eyes appeared hollow and devoid of emotion. There were indeed pairs of eyes, and they belonged to one of Wuxia's legions, known as the Legion of Mist, known for being immortal and indestructible. The light and dark twin kings, nurtured under Wuxia's guidance, had reached the level of the top 10 natural disasters. Their combat strength was just one step away from half-step Tier 5 transcendent. However, considering their nearly indestructible nature and the endless legion of mist beasts under their command, they were about to unleash a disaster upon the god of orcs and the others. Boom! With a sudden explosion, the portal, towering as if it upheld heaven, spewed forth an endless white mist. Like a tidal wave, It transformed into a vast river of mist that engulfed a significant portion of the starry sky, surging towards the god of orcs and the others. On closer inspection, it became clear that every wisp of mist was actually a mist beast in disguise. And now, this surging river of mist submerged the god of orcs, the tree of life, and the other Elysian powerhouses within a few breaths. What the hell are these things? Amidst a furious roar, a golden axe cleaved through a large portion of the misty river. However, within moments the river reformed. Deep within the misty river, one mist beast after another charged fearlessly at the god of orcs, throwing themselves forward without hesitation. But this was just the beginning. Why yes, I do, Yuziu thought to himself, a smirk playing on his lips, for at that moment, his roots had already transformed into deadly serpents, silently slithering toward the depths of the river of mist. Their movements made no sound or commotion, none at all. There was nothing but deathly silence. The dark domain did not just erase the five senses, it also swallowed all sound. And in just a few breaths after Yuziu's roots sneaked into the river of mist, his eyes suddenly lit up, seemingly discovering something. If one looked from his perspective, they would find that the ends of his roots that had slithered into the river of mist were tightly wrapped around various figures, binding them like mummies. One of them was an obscure god of Alicia, the god of nature. And among the others, aside from a few unknown elves, there was also a tree. This tree was none other than the tree of life, the sacred relic of the elves, and it too had been captured by Yuziu. With this, there are only 3 left. Lifting his gaze slightly, Yuziu glanced at the god of orcs, the elf queen, and the god of dreams, who were battling fiercely with the light and dark twin kings, the undying blood raven and the demon phoenix. He could not help but find it amusing. Because even as they fought, they remained oblivious to the fact that their comrades had completely disappeared. Yuziu promptly sprang into action, showing no hesitation. His spiritual energy surged as he opened the portal to one of the space pockets, which bore void in its name, the Pocket of Void. The Pocket of Void was a place with nothing but nothingness. It was the perfect prison. Simply put, it was a form of exile. Devoid of any kind of matter, it was like a barren universe. However, unlike the universe where stars could occasionally be seen, the Pocket of Void lacked even the basic spiritual energy. Go! With a single command, Yuziu's roots, winding around the captured elves and the god of nature, sent them into the Pocket of Void. Having done this, Yuziu slowly lifted his gaze, observing the tree of life in the distance, that was affected by the power of the dark domain. Only then did he slowly retract his spiritual energy, allowing the tree of life's power to surge. Boom! With a sudden roar, a surge of vitality erupted from the tree of life, creating a green pillar of light shooting through the starry sky, visible to the naked eye. And under this green pillar of light, a towering tree could be seen slowly rising, growing bigger and bigger. However, unlike Yuziu's extraordinary and mystical appearance, this tree was a genuine tree. Lush and verdant, it resembled an entire forest. Its green leaves shimmered with a crystalline glow, and its massive trunk was so grand that it seemed to support the sky. This was the tree of life, the divine tree symbolizing life. But, unfortunately, right the moment this divine tree revealed its true form, roar! A deafening roar suddenly erupted across the starry sky, drawing its attention toward the source. To the tree of life's stupefaction, the space suddenly shattered as a gigantic azure dragon's head, as large as a mountain, emerged from inside. The enormous azure dragon head, much like the giant dragons of Dragon Island, radiated a majestic dragon's aura. Rather, the azure dragon head's aura was even more overwhelming. So much so that labeling it as terrifying would not be an understatement. Just by gazing at its majestic dragon eyes froze the tree of life in its place, as if it was petrified. However, what left her even more terrified was that just as the azure dragon head emerged, a mysterious suction suddenly erupted from it, draining away the power of the tree of life. At first it was not strong and it was draining little by little. But soon the azure dragon head opened its mouth, and the suction began to intensify, drawing away the tree of life's power like a whale gulping down water. No, no! The tree of life's voice became sharp with panic and fear. At that moment, as the suction increased, the tree of life realized that the azure dragon was not only devouring her spiritual energy but also consuming her very essence, her still developing quintessence of life. No, please don't! Her voice trembled as the entire tree of life began to shiver. Her branches shook violently and countless leaves began to fall. Visible to the naked eye, her enormous form, which once bloated the starry sky, started to shrink. The entire canopy took on a withered yellow hue. Such an unforgettable delicacy. Yuziyu thought to himself, finally understanding what this tree of life meant to the Azure Dragon. Divine trees and natural sacred beings like the Azure Dragon were incredibly rare. It was difficult for another to appear within the same era. For instance, at the peak of the last era, after billions of years of accumulation, the elves had only 9 trees of life. This showed just how rare such beings were. Moreover, the fact that they held the potential to grasp the principle of life made them even more precious. However, it was also a good thing. At least for Yuziyu, it was an immense opportunity. After all, he who was even more powerful could easily consume the tree of life as a supplement, absorbing its quintessence to enhance himself. And it proved to be true. In just a short time, Yuziyu felt his understanding of the principle of life deepen significantly. What a pleasant surprise, murmuring to himself, Yuziyu's eyes flickered with excitement, gazing at the tree of life. Then, boom, the remaining Azure Dragon body emerged from the shattered space, swiftly coiling around the entire tree of life. Would you be willing to serve me? Yuziyu's dragon eyes gleamed as he spoke with a hint of teasing, staring directly at the tree of life. The tree of life could not say anything. Even now, she did not understand what kind of existence Yuziyu's Azure Dragon form was, nor why it could absorb her power. Nonetheless, she was sure about one thing: she was in deep trouble, immense trouble. Things were completely out of her control now. At that moment, as if sensing the tree of life's thoughts, the 2 whiskers of Yuziyu's Azure Dragon form shook as if in a smile. It seems like you've agreed to serve under me? That's good. From now on, you will be my sentient artifact. I can promise you this: as long as you cooperate, I won't erase your consciousness. You can remain as the artifact spirit. Amid Yuziyu's hearty laughter, the Azure Dragon body coiled tightly around the tree of life, and in the next moment, they both vanished from the starry sky. In the last era there used to be countless planes. The universe of that time was far more vast and expansive than the current one. However, it was rumored that the present universe was constantly expanding, like a singularity. This ongoing expansion was something worth anticipating. Yet, these details were not of immediate importance. What was truly a matter of significance was that the myriad planes of the last era were broadly divided into 2 regions, East and West. This division was based on their cultivation systems, which mirrored each other like 2 sides of a coin. In the East there were true dragons, in the West giant dragons. The East had demon beasts while the West had magical beasts. Similarly, while the East had natural sacred beings who embodied the principle of life, the West had the tree of life, which also bore the principle of life. Yet, these 2 entities were fundamentally different. One was active, the other passive. One specialized in attack, the other in nurturing life. This difference was the key distinction between the Azure Dragon and the Tree of Life, both of which were natural sacred beings. Their understanding and application of the principle of life were vastly different, almost polar opposites. But this contrast also drew them naturally toward each other. One could say that if Yuziyu's Azure Dragon form truly managed to refine the Tree of Life into a sentient weapon, even turning her into his natal weapon, then comprehending the principle of life and rising to the level of a hegemon would be set in stone. Their combination would be like 2 mirrors reflecting each other. It truly would be a marvel beyond words. At this point, Yuziyu had not fully realized the immense opportunity before him, but he would soon. It was only a matter of time. To stumble upon such fortune, not only nurturing a natural sacred being but also finding its counterpart in the vast universe, which also carried the principle of life, this was indeed a stroke of incredible luck. Opportunities like this were almost non-existent in this era. After all, in the vast expanse of countless planes, not only was it rare to encounter such beings, but they were also seldom even heard of. Moreover, the birth of an Azure Dragon required a perfect alignment of circumstances. Heaven, earth, and man with an immense stroke of luck. Perhaps one might be born every million years. As for the Tree of Life, it was the treasure of the elf clan, so precious that even hegemons would not dare to covet it. One could imagine how slim the chances were of these 2 beings meeting, let alone complementing each other. At this moment, a sudden, inexplicable sense of satisfaction washed over Yuziyu. This sudden surge of emotions was quite unexpected. Yuziyu vaguely felt that it was connected to the Tree of Life. It was as if he had stumbled upon a great fortune. I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm really getting ahead of myself. Shaking his head, Yuziyu suppressed the strange thoughts that had suddenly arisen. Rather than concerning himself with these intangible matters, Yuziyu was more focused on subduing the remaining strong opponents. Damn it, damn it, damn it. With each roar, the golden divine energy tore through the deepest part of the river of mist, shooting into the starry sky. And this was the god of orcs, a peak Elysian powerhouse, who happened to be roaring in frustration. Meanwhile, on the other side, a surge of colorful spiritual energy burst forth, with formations like magic circles continuously blooming in the depths of the river of mist. This was the Elf Queen. With her talent in all elements, she unleashed her final trump card under the relentless assault of the mist beasts. An endless spiritual energy transformed into a mighty torrent, clashing with the river of mist. Consequently, a terrifying clash sent ripples in space. As for the last one, the god of dreams. With a slight smile, Wuxia slowly lifted his gaze. In the next moment, his eyes fell upon a small phantom, a girl who seemed no older than 14 to 15 years. She had a playful look on her young face, making her appear youthful and vibrant. However, at this moment, this illusory figure of the girl appeared tense as she stared intently at the magnificent tree rooted far away in the starry sky. "Have you looked enough?" Wuxia's voice, tinged with amusement, echoed in the girl's ear. "Humph," she retorted, crossing her arms with a cold snort. She seemed entirely unfazed by Wuxia's scrutiny. However, she had every reason to be confident. As the god of dreams, her true form resided deep within the world of emerald dreams in the mysterious depths of Elysia. Though her current combat power was not strong, harming her was nearly impossible. To put it simply, the girl before him was merely a projection. Well then, after a moment, Wuxia sighed in resignation. Having already seen the status screen of the god of dreams, he knew just how troublesome this girl was. Setting aside everything else, there was one particular ability that left Wuxia at a loss. Illusion. Everything's an illusion. She can ignore all physical attacks and even the vast majority of psychic attacks. Wuxia's mind was in a complete turmoil, the corner of his eyes constantly twitching. With this ability, the god of dreams was destined to be like an eye that could not be removed, constantly watching Wuxia. Of course, she could only watch, she could not do anything else. In fact, she could only helplessly witness her companions being captured by Wuxia. With her limited combat power, she posed no real threat to him. Her only notable method was to invade dreams, sneaking into Wuxia's dreams while he slept. However, the question remained, does someone like Wuxia even dream? With a chuckle, Wuxia allowed the god of dreams to continue watching. Meanwhile, a few more of his secondary roots fiercely slithered through the starry sky, shooting towards the river of mist. Giving out dragon-like roars, these roots transformed into 1,000-foot-long flood dragons, charging into the depths of the river of mist. Each flood dragon, as an extension of Wuxia's true body, possessed overwhelming combat strength. Now, with 8 such roots in action, even the god of orcs and Elf Queen, despite their trump cards, found it hard to turn the tide. After all, Wuxia was systematically taking them down one by one. "Damn you!" Another furious roar erupted from the god of orcs as blazing divine energy, seemingly burning, suddenly skyrocketed from him. But moments later, roar, one after another, the flood dragons let out shrill roars as they relentlessly attacked the burly figure shrouded in holy light, forcing it into retreat. They bit, strangled, and even unleashed powerful breath attacks. One devastating strike after another overwhelmed the god of orcs, making it nearly impossible for him to defend himself. Moreover, without the Tree of Life support, his combat power had greatly diminished. Spurt! With a sudden gasp, the god of orcs spewed a large mouthful of golden blood as his body was sent flying thousands of meters by one of the flood dragons, scattering the river of mist in the process. "What a pity!" A sigh escaped Wuxia's lips, a hint of regret showing on his face. He was regretting the fact that the god of orcs was not in Tier 5. Had he been, he might have had the power to challenge Wuxia. Nonetheless, it would have been just that, a challenge, nothing more. Now, although Wuxia was not entirely sure of his own strength, he believed that even a Tier 5 transcendent of a higher race, like a god, would not truly be able to compete with him. Still, such an opponent would make for a good sparring partner. After battling the god of orcs, Wuxia considered subduing him, helping him ascend to Tier 5, and using him as a sparring partner to refine his combat abilities daily. But for now, exile. With a soft chuckle, a void-like whirlpool manifested in the direction the god of orcs was sent flying. Immediately, a terrifying suction emerged from the whirlpool. "What's this?" The god of orcs' expression changed dramatically, as his divine body, out of his control, was sucked into the whirlpool. The 9th space pocket, known as Pocket of Void, would be the graveyard of the strong, a place of eternal exile. This was Yu's vision for the ninth space pocket, the pocket void. And it seemed to be working exactly as he had envisioned. At this moment, if one looked through Yu's perspective, one would see the god of orcs, the god of nature, and several elves standing helplessly in the void. As a matter of fact, they were unaware of each other's presence. In the ninth space pocket, Yu had long set up the divine ability, the dark domain, which erased their five senses. Even using their psychic senses, they would only feel desolation. Truly there was no way out, neither heaven above nor hell below. This also meant that the only things awaiting these powerful entities were death-like solitude and despair. After casting a glance at them with a smile on his lips, Yu no longer paid them any attention. Instead, he shifted his gaze to another figure tightly bound by his roots, the Elf Queen. Gazing deeply at this otherworldly beauty, even Yu could not help but admire her. In terms of figure and appearance, even someone like Yu, who was used to seeing beautiful women, could not help but be amazed. What have you done? Where is the god of orcs? Where is the god of nature? The Elf Queen gnashed her silvery white teeth and glared at the terrifying demon tree with an unusually pale face. In just a few breaths, all her companions had vanished. Even her elf clan's sacred relic, the tree of life, had disappeared without a trace. This scene, not to mention her, would cause even someone with an iron will to panic. Yu softly chuckled as his spiritual energy surged. Boom! Suddenly, a thunderclap echoed in the Elf Queen's mind, causing a sharp pain to surge through her head, followed by a wave of dizziness. In her hazy consciousness, she vaguely heard a playful laugh. They've gone to where they belong. Shortly after, Yu opened the pocket of vitality and sent the Elf Queen inside. A smile played on his lips. Clearly he had won this battle without breaking a sweat. Although it did not have the satisfying feeling of crushing his enemies, Yu preferred this steady and cautious approach. Better safe than sorry. After all, the three gods of Alicia possessed divine artifacts capable of sealing me. With that in mind, Yu shifted his consciousness. In an instant, Yu descended using his void elf form. With a light step, he ascended to the vast canopy of his true form, the tree that blotted out the starry sky, and chose to sit quietly in meditation. At the same time, he slowly raised his right hand. And in the next moment, with a burst of dazzling golden light, three objects, seemingly weapons, slowly emerged. One was a golden axe. This was the war axe of the god of orcs. Another was a long whip, glowing green and covered in countless spikes. This was the god of dreams' whip of dreams, a weapon that could shock the soul with a single strike, plunging the victim into confusion and causing their consciousness to sink. It was a divine weapon that truly attacked the soul. The last was a branch. It was the branch of rebirth of the god of nature, capable of awakening life in an area and even scattering dew. Even ordinary water, when this branch was placed in it, would transform into spirit essence. The longer it was soaked in the water, the higher the quality of the spirit essence. In a certain sense, it was also an extraordinary treasure. These three divine artifacts were the companion artifacts of the three gods, containing a portion of the planet Alicia's world quintessence. When combined, they could transform into the world's cage. Muttering to himself, Yu's eyes flickered with a strange light. The world's cage was a rather troublesome divine artifact. Moreover, it was one of the rarest types of sealing artifacts among divine artifacts. Yu focused his gaze as he read through its introduction. World's cage. It's capable of sealing a space up to 100,000 meters in size, and can even draw upon the power of planet Alicia to reinforce the seal, effectively isolating that space from the rest of the universe. This was the world's cage, a divine artifact formed by the fusion of the three divine artifacts. What a terrifying artifact! Although even if Yu were sealed, he would not be in mortal danger. It could cause significant delays to his plans, leading to major problems. After all, Earth had not yet stabilized and they had just made contact with Alicia. There were still too many things waiting for Yu to do. At that moment, as if sensing something, the god of dreams suddenly jolted in surprise. She instinctively looked up. The god of dreams saw a purple elf gazing at her with a faint smile. Opening her mouth, she found herself at a loss for words, her expression becoming somewhat complicated. Although puzzled, she vaguely discerned the connection between this void elf and the demonic tree. It was similar to the relationship between the elves and the tree of life. However, compared to the elves, the aura between this purple elf and the demonic tree was even more closely intertwined, almost as if they were one. Right then, a playful voice suddenly rang in the God of Dreams' ears. "When I have time, I'll personally visit your true form in the world of Emerald Dreams." "What?" A cry of shock escaped her lips, but before the God of Dreams could ask more, swish. Yuziyu casually waved his hand as a streak of silver light shot out from his tree body. The silver streak was dazzling and as fast as lightning. However, what left the God of Dreams even more terrified was that the moment the silver streak came in contact with the God of Dreams, a sharp, cutting aura erupted from it. A sharp aura that could even tear apart the soul broke out from it. Boom! The next moment, with a thunderous clap, the God of Dreams' projection vanished into thin air. Even until her phantom disappeared, her expression, frozen in disbelief, remained plastered on her face. "It's not that I can't deal with you, I just chose not to," Yuziyu softly murmured, watching the God of Dreams' fading form, like a fleeting illusion, a faint smile playing on his lips. This was the Soul Breaker, one of the 5 flying daggers of his Tao-protecting artifact, the Radiant Galaxy. It was an extremely fearsome weapon that could sever and even tear apart the soul. At that moment, with a wave of his right hand, the distant silver streak made a swift return, landing back in Yuziyu's hand. The dagger, in the shape of a willow leaf, glimmered with a silver glow. At the very center of its blade, there was an extremely vivid and lifelike teardrop. This was the flying dagger, Soul Breaker. Compared to the blood dagger and the star dagger, this blade had the unique power to attack the soul. The reason for this was Yuziyu's continuous refinement, with the assistance of 2 powerful transcendents proficient in psychic power, Aurora and the Mermaid Queen. Of course, the most important factor was the Mermaid Queen's tears. As a mermaid, and a royal one at that, her tears possessed an indescribable power. After several attempts, Yuziyu had managed to refine her tears into a single droplet, which he had then embedded into the flying dagger. As a result, this flying dagger's lethality against the soul had slightly increased. As she spoke, the God of Dreams raised a fingertip. Her divine energy surged as her unique authority as the God of Dreams began to stir. The next moment, a silent ripple suddenly spread from here, like a stone dropping into a calm lake, rippling through the entire world of Emerald Dreams, causing the entire world to tremble. At that moment, across planet Alicia, countless beings still in their dreams heard a faint, murmuring voice. "Our world is under attack. We need your help." Accompanying this gentle voice, scenes began to appear in the minds of these dreamers. The sky of the Alicia shattered, with countless unfamiliar powerful beings descending like shooting stars. Cities engulfed in flames, reduced to ruins. And even a colossal that blotted out the sky, rooted in the starry sky, appearing both divine and demonic, terrifying to the extreme. Oracle. It was indeed an oracle. Decades ago, the God of Dreams had issued an oracle during the war stirred by the God of Orcs, and now, once again, another oracle had descended. This time, the oracle was brief, but every word was deeply alarming. Especially when accompanied by the images that surfaced in their minds. One by one, the denizens of Alicia awoke from their nightmares in shock, their backs drenched in sweat. At the same time, across every corner of Alicia, large and small forces came to realize the gravity of the situation. Gazing into the depths of the night sky at the faint yet enormous silhouette resembling a giant tree, their eyes could not help but flicker. A demonic tree, an evil god from another world. In the depths of the forest of magical beast, a primordial monitor lizard that had been slumbering for ages slowly opened its eyes amidst its murmurs. This was a renowned magical beast of Alicia. However, in recent years, it had entered deep sleep, closing itself off completely, not even waking when the sky itself had torn apart. But now, under the oracle of the God of Dreams, it had awakened, fully understanding the situation. If it's a battle they want, then a battle they shall have. With a deep, rumbling growl, the primordial monitor lizard slowly got up. The ground trembled as if a colossal earth dragon was swimming in the ground, as a massive earth-toned lizard, as large as a mountain, appeared in sight. Ancient and awe-inspiring, it exuded an indescribable terror. This was a first-class transcendent Tier 4 magical beast, its power on par with the 3 Dragon Kings. At the same time, Haya, a sigh echoed through the dark forest, one of the 7 treacherous territories. In the depths of this ancient area, a gigantic creature resembling a bone dragon slowly emerged. It was one of the most terrifying dark creatures, feared and dreaded by many. But now, with Alicia under invasion, personal and racial grudges were all set aside. Of course, this was only the beginning. In response to the oracle, many slumbering powerhouses across the continent chose to awaken, while others began gathering on their own, preparing for the impending war. This was something Yu clearly did not anticipate. While he had considered that in a world with underdeveloped communication, there might be a thing such as an oracle, it had not occurred to him that it could be performed at such a level. To say the least, it was incredibly convenient. In just half a night, the news of the otherworldly invasion had spread across most of the continent. However, even if Yu knew about it, he probably would not care. After all, the reckless actions of the three gods and the peak powerhouses of the elf clan had already secured Earth's victory. It was set in stone. As for what Yu needed to do now, it was simply to wait. At present, both Earth and Alicia were practically half under Yu's control. War was the best catalyst for progress. As such, the war between the two worlds would, to some extent, greatly accelerate their respective civilizations' progress. What Yu needed to do was keep the war within a manageable scope. For instance, he would try not to let too many Tier 4 transcendents be slaughtered. After all, powerhouses of that level were the greatest resource. As for the rest, it was just a matter of reaping and reaping. With each round of harvest, he would finish the necessary upgrades to achieve a qualitative leap in his own strength. Meanwhile, deep within one of Yu's 9 space pockets, the pocket of light, a massive tree resembling an ox supported the entire space. Beneath this tree stood a stone platform and a stone table. Yu's void elf form sat quietly at the table with a golden-haired beauty, so beautiful that she seemed as if she had stepped out of a painting, pouring spirit essence beside him. This was the Mermaid Queen, a first-class Tier 4 transcendent. She was skilled in the mermaid song, which could purify mind, body, and even the soul. She was also one of Yu's apostles. And now, as she poured the spirit essence, the Mermaid Queen Elsa smiled and asked, "Master, what do you plan to do next?" "To wait." Taking a sip of the spirit essence in his cup, Yu's lips curled into a slight smile. Taking a sip, he could not help but admit that the spirit essence from his main body was indeed a treasure. Even now, as he tried it with his void elf form, Yu could feel this body growing stronger at a visible pace. Moreover, his spiritual energy had increased by hundreds of thousands. This was the highest grade Tier 5 life essence from his main body. If I continue to refine this void elf form with my life essence, it wouldn't take long before this body would reach the peak of Tier 4. Thinking this, Yu felt completely satisfied. Usually, my subordinates benefit from my spirit essence. I never thought that there would come a day when I would have a chance to use it myself. Still, this is not the time to focus on that. Eliminating the distracting thoughts, Yu shifted most of his consciousness to his main body, leaving only a small part to continue refining the void elf form. According to Yu's estimation, by the next time he used his void elf form, it would likely have reached the peak of Tier 4, if not halfway to Tier 5. After all, the resources in Yu's pocket of life were no joke. In addition, the void elf form itself had exceptional potential. Not long after, Yu was mostly back in his main body. His branches started swaying as his body began to shrink. Boom, boom, at a pace visible to the naked eye, Yu's body, which seemed to cover most of the starry sky, shrank again and again, until it was only several dozen meters tall. Now that the world's barrier has partially shattered, nothing can stop me from descending. Saying this, Yu's spiritual energy surged once again. With a whoosh, Yu's entire body shot towards planet Alicia, like a meteor zooming through space. His destination was none other than the skies above Dragon Island, where the fiercest battles were taking place. Dragon Island, one of the 7 treacherous territories of Alicia, was also the gathering place for the most powerful predators, dragons. At this moment, the sky above Dragon Island was shattered like a mirror, with overwhelmingly fearsome auras clashing with each other. "You're courting death." With a furious roar, a golden dragon tail suddenly swelled, transforming into a massive golden mace, smashing toward a distant figure standing on the ocean. "Come on then." Behemoth, the terrifying monster known as the Terrestrial King, burst into laughter as he spread his arms wide, choosing to meet the attack head-on. Boom! A thunderous clap reverberated through the sky as a horrifying shockwave spread from the point of impact, raising waves hundreds of meters high. Amidst it, a massive figure could be seen being pushed back through the sea. However, what was unbelievable was that even as this terrifying figure was being pushed back, it still firmly held onto the golden dragon tail. How is this possible? In astonishment, one dragon after another stared in disbelief at the beast that had withstood the Golden Dragon King's tail strike. Behemoths, renowned as the Terrestrial Kings, were a terrifying race capable of contending with pure-blooded dragons, even in the previous era. If not for their small numbers, their fame might have rivaled that of the Dragon Clan. However, today, under the disbelieving gazes of countless powerful transcendents, Behemoth, a creature of legend, had appeared once more, shaking everyone by taking the Golden Dragon King's tail strike head-on. How is this possible? Are you kidding me? How can anyone possess that kind of strength? This guy is a monster. Exclamations followed one after another, with countless dragons left dumbfounded. Even the corners of the distant Sarcosuchus and Lightning Dragon's eyes could not help but twitch at the sight of this. They had not just learned about Behemoth yesterday. They knew well how terrifying this creature was. However, witnessing this monster withstand the savage and powerful tail strike of the Golden Dragon firsthand was a whole other thing. They could not help but exchange glances with each other. Their glances carried a mix of helplessness and relief. Helplessness because Behemoth's strength was truly terrifying. Relief because Behemoth was on their side. At this moment, the Golden Dragon King furrowed his brow slightly, a sense of foreboding rising within him as he gazed at the massive beast. The gold dragons were renowned for their physical prowess and strength. To say the least, that tail strike could have shattered mountains and torn apart the sea. Yet, without saying another word, the Golden Dragon King suddenly flicked his tail again. However, in an instant his expression changed drastically, for at that moment he felt an immense counterforce surging back through his tails. My turn. With a grin that carried a touch of malice and savagery, Behemoth suppressed the churning in his chest and exerted all his strength. Boom! With a deafening roar, the Golden Dragon King's colossal body, around 100 meters long, was uncontrollably lifted into the air, to the shock and dismay of countless dragons. Burning with fury, a furious dragon roar thundered across the sky. However, before the Golden Dragon King could do anything else, Behemoth planted one foot firmly on an island, like taking root, while bending the other leg at a 90-degree angle. Ha! Behemoth's laughter, filled with wild joy, resounded as he swung the Golden Dragon King like a whip. An overwhelming spiritual energy surged from Behemoth, his silver fur dancing in the wind. Die! Laughing even more heartily, Behemoth swung the Golden Dragon King and slammed him into an island. A thunderous crash reverberated through the sky, as the entire island shattered into pieces, sending dust and debris flying into the sky. Intense pain instantly surged through the Golden Dragon King's entire body, leaving him disoriented. Pain, unimaginable pain, overwhelmed his senses. However, it was not over yet because his tail was still in Behemoth's grip. Happy, so happy! Laughing loudly, Behemoth lifted the Golden Dragon King once more and hurled him into the sea in another direction. Boom! With another resounding crash, waves hundreds of meters high rose into the air. It seemed as if the entire sea was being torn apart. Accompanying it was the Golden Dragon King's furious and agonized roar. A thunderous dragon roar reverberated across the world. At the same time, golden spiritual energy ignited like flames from his body, causing even the sea to boil. The Golden Dragon King was filled with rage, pure, unbridled rage. Being swung around like a toy by such a monster had completely enraged this Dragon King. At that moment, whoosh, like a meteor falling from the sky, a streak of nearly imperceptible starlight instantly pierced through the sky, descending in the depths of Dragon Island. Boom! The streak crashed in the deepest corner of Dragon Island, which resembled a small continent, with a thunderous crash. Within the crater, numerous glowing branches could be seen gently swaying. Soon afterward, an overwhelming spiritual energy surged inside the crater as a willow tree, vast and towering, rose from the ground. Be that as it may, Wuxia had deliberately restrained his size, making himself only 200 to 300 meters tall. He believed that it was more than enough. After all, if he was too large, he would unnecessarily attract attention on the battlefield. At this moment, Wuxia's forces were clearly gaining the upper hand. The Dragon Clan, led by the 3 Dragon Kings, was being utterly overwhelmed by Wuxia's sentinels and Sarcosuchus, leaving them with no chance to fight back. Even the most arrogant Golden Dragon King had underestimated Behemoth and paid the price. Challenging Behemoth head-on was nothing short of seeking death. Even if it was a giant dragon, so what? Many giant dragons had been beaten to death by behemoths in the previous era. And now, raising his gaze, Wuxia glanced at the Golden Dragon King, who was seething with fury, and chuckled softly. Now you want to fight desperately? It's already too late. Wuxia pitied the Golden Dragon King as he noticed a faint, ghostly light silently approaching the Golden Dragon King. It was a serpent, an entirely black serpent surrounded by an eerie glow. It was the mysterious little snake that had recently joined Yuziu's fold when he conquered Africa. Nurtured carefully by Yuziu, she had already reached the intermediate level of Tier 4. Though her combat power was not her primary strength, her poison was absolutely terrifying. In fact, unless a fellow Tier 4 Transcendent had special means to counteract it, they would either be severely weakened or possibly even get killed by her venom. Now, as a member of Yuziu's Sentinel, Little Snake was stealthily moving towards the Golden Dragon King. She opened her jaws, revealing a pair of venomous fangs, faintly glowing with an eerie, blackish glow. She was never one for head-to-head combat and worked in tandem with Behemoth. Unmatched in sheer power, Behemoth would take the brunt of the attack. Meanwhile, Little Snake would strike from the shadows while the enemy was entangled with Behemoth. It was a simple but highly effective tactic. This duo was one of the few invincible pairs within Yuziu's Sentinels. In fact, though diverse, all of Yuziu's Sentinels mostly operated in pairs. They chose their partners based on complementary strengths and weaknesses. For example, Behemoth and Little Snake were a pair. Then there was Slytherin, Yamada no Orochi, who had recently reached Tier 4, who was paired with Dream Beast. Yamada no Orochi could devour fear, feeding on it, while the Dream Beast could invade dreams, weaving nightmares. Another pair was the Red-Beak Platypus and the new Sea Beast King, Leviathan. One was like a volcano with seemingly endless eruptions, unmatched in large-scale attacks. The other was a deep-sea monstrosity capable of overturning entire oceans. Surprisingly, they made an excellent pair. After this battle, they will experience significant progress. As Yuziu watched the increasingly intense battlefield, a smile played on his lips. Breathing dragon flames, the Red Dragon Queen had covered the seas with dragon flames for thousands of meters, evaporating the water and filling the area with mist. However, she was up against Little White, an ice elemental flood dragon. As a member of the Ice Flood Dragon clan, she was already formidable. And the addition of elements only made her even more terrifying. Yuziu could not help but grin, witnessing the sea of flames fanned by the Red Dragon Queen over tens of thousands of meters freeze over completely. At the same time, a horrifying chill spread into the surroundings, transforming the surroundings into a world of ice, reminiscent of the Ice Age. Absolute ice spikes. With a cold shout, the cold vapor in the air gathered in the sky, quickly freezing into a barrage of ice spikes. Whoosh, 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 accompanied by the sound of the air being sliced, countless ice spikes, still emanating a chilling aura, rained down like a torrential downpour. Even just a fist-sized ice spike landing in the ocean could freeze the seas within a radius of 100 meters. And now, tens of thousands of these ice spikes, forming a rain that covered an area the size of half a city, flew towards the Red Dragon Queen. Bang, 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 as the ice spike struck the Red Dragon Queen's spiritual energy barrier, it struggled to withstand the assault. Crack. With a crisp crack, a section of her spiritual energy barrier shattered, and through this shattered barrier, countless ice spikes rained down, targeting the Red Dragon Queen's body. However, the Red Dragon Queen let out a cold snort, completely unfazed by the whole attack. Not only was her body as hot as magma, but her dragon scales alone were enough to withstand these ice spikes. However, moments later, a sense of unease crept into the Red Dragon Queen's heart. What is this? With an instinctive sense of caution, the Red Dragon Queen noticed the ice spikes converging near her, gradually taking on the form of a small loach-like creature. No, it was more like a flood dragon. Naturally, it was none other than Little White. At this moment, taking advantage of her ability, elementalization, Little White drew close to the Red Dragon Queen, her body coiling tightly around hers, round and round. Freeze. Absolute zero. With a soft and tender shout, a soul-chilling coldness spread through the air, making even the Red Dragon Queen involuntarily shiver. To her disbelief, frost began to cover parts of her body. The terrifying coldness continued to spread bit by bit, inching closer to enveloping her entirely. Little White's ability to manipulate the cold is getting stronger, it's even beginning to touch upon the use of principles. In a voice filled with admiration, Yuziu nodded in satisfaction. Her growth was a testament to his relentless nurturing efforts. Now, his trusted subordinates had all grown strong, capable of standing their ground even in the world of Alicia. It was truly commendable. However, Yuziu believes, below Tier 4 he can assist them, but beyond Tier 4 they must walk their own path. Every being has their own journey to cross. In this regard, not even Yuziu could offer much more than resources. As such, it was always destined that raising his loyal followers to Tier 4 would be his limit. Yet, as he pondered over this, Yuziyu's lips curled into a smile. By now, most of the 9 great beasts, left and right guardian and elemental generals had all reached Tier 4, which was more than enough. As for those who had yet to reach that level, after a moment of contemplation, Yuziyu had a clear idea. Old 7th, the Pteranodon, Old 8th, the Mammoth and the Right Guardian, Snake Queen, who used to be one of the 10 monstrosities of the Asian continent. As he whispered their names, a flicker of light danced in Yuziyu's eyes. They were his most trusted confidants. As his influence continued to expand, the number of powerful beings under his command also continued to increase. However, those truly worthy of his trust were just a select few. So, it was essential to take good care of them. I'll have to find an opportunity to give these little guys some special training, Yuziyu thought with a smile, his gaze shifting towards the depths of Dragon Island. Upon his arrival, he had already sensed several presents in a certain corner of the island. If my guess is right, they are most likely hatchlings and dragon eggs. With this in mind, Yuziyu channeled his spiritual energy as a blood-red eye slowly opened on his trunk. Boom! In an instant, Yuziyu's perception of the world around him became significantly clearer. This was the complementary ability of his heavenly eye, which greatly enhanced his perception. Now, opening the heavenly eye, the entire Dragon Island fell within Yuziyu's senses. Even the small magical beasts trembling within the nests could be sensed by him. 18 hatchlings and 5 dragon eggs. A light laugh escaped Yuziyu, his eyes gleaming with smiles. Their existence had really come as a pleasant surprise to him. More importantly, Yuziyu noticed that one of the dragon eggs had an especially strong dragon aura. He reckoned that it was likely a pure blood dragon, the kind of prodigy that could reach Tier 4 as soon as it matured. As for the other hatchlings and dragon eggs, their talents were not weak either. With some effort, they would find it much easier to reach Tier 4 compared to ordinary species. Simply put, Yuziyu had just gained at least 20 potential Tier 4s. Haha! Laughing heartily for once, Yuziyu's spiritual energy surged. Swish, swish, swish. The next moment, branch after branch shot out from him, stretching dozens of kilometers, reaching into every corner of Dragon Island. Soon enough, under Yuziyu's joyous gaze, hatchling after hatchling, along with 5 dragon eggs, were all wrapped up by the branches and brought back. Let's first send them to the Lake of Vitality in the Pocket of Life for nurturing. Any increase in their talents would be worth it. With that, Yuziyu, ignoring the struggles of hatchlings, casually tossed them into the green vortex that had opened up. Of course, he chose to ignore the wails of the dragons on the island who had been guarding the hatchlings and the eggs. After all, he had not killed them. Once the entire Dragon Island submitted to him, these dragons would be able to see their offspring again. Moreover, under Yuziyu's meticulous care, these hatchlings and dragon eggs would grow much stronger. According to Yuziyu, this was a great opportunity for these hatchlings and dragon eggs. After all, being chosen by him was something others could only dream of. Yuziyu, placing the 18 hatchlings and 5 dragon eggs into the Lake of Vitality within the Pocket of Life for nurturing, did not remain idle. He still had many tasks at hand that needed his attention. For instance, boom, boom, accompanied by a surge in spiritual energy, his roots continuously dug deeper into the ground, moving as swiftly as earth dragons. At the same time, the spirit stone mines buried in the depths of Dragon Island, the foundation of the island, began to tremble. Soon after, gulp, gulp, as if devouring, Yuziyu's countless roots squirmed, ballooning and shrinking as glow of various colors flowed through them. At this point, there was no denying that the dragon clan was quite wealthy. Yuziyu found super-large spirit stone mines present in several locations. Besides, one of these super-large mines happened to be an exceptionally rare light attribute spirit stone mine. With this particular spirit stone mine, Yuziyu's pocket of light might expand several times over. However, it did not end just there. As Little Tenth, the lightning dragon had mentioned, the dragon clan indeed had a fondness for shiny things. Deep within Dragon Island, Yuziyu discovered countless crystals. These crystals were a concentrated form of spiritual energy, a unique product of the mutant beasts, also known as magical beasts, in this world. Now, deep within Dragon Island, these crystals were piled up like mountains. Some of them were so dazzling that they were hard to look at directly. These dazzling crystals were Tier 4 magic crystal, the most valuable items obtained by the Dragon clan from hunting Tier 4 magical beasts. In addition to these crystals, there were also some that emitted a faint dragon prestige. Yuziyu reckoned that these magic crystals were the dragon crystals collected from fallen members of the dragon clan. These magic crystals were extremely valuable, akin to important strategic resources. Not only did they possess vast amounts of pure spiritual energy, the imprints of heaven and earth engraved within them, like formations, were of immense interest to Yuziyu. With these Tier 4 magic crystals and dragon crystals, my research on formations might undergo a qualitative transformation. I might even develop formations suitable for the Tao-protecting artifact, Radiant Galaxy. Muttering to himself, a hint of excitement appeared on Yuziyu's face. It was rare for him to show such emotion. However, now, seeing this many magic crystals of such level, Yuziyu knew that the invasion of Dragon Island had truly paid off. The giant dragon clan, known for their wealth that rivaled nations, is indeed unmatched in their ability to accumulate such treasures. Heh, chuckling, Yuziyu did not hold back. After briefly giving orders on how to handle the dragon clan, Yuziyu no longer paid them any attention. At this point, all he needed to do was steer the overall situation. As for the rest, it was not his concern. Nine Tails, Bull Demon, and Sarcosuchus were more than capable of handling everything their own. With this thought, Yuziyu shifted his consciousness and gazed into the space pocket bearing the name Void. Within the space pocket, one could see a powerful figure either sitting in silence or roaring towards heaven. Unfortunately for them, the entire pocket of Void offered no escape, neither to heaven above nor to the hell below. No matter how much they roared, all they got in return was eerie silence. At this moment, Yuziyu's gaze shifted again. This time, his eyes landed on a blurry figure shrouded in holy light not far away. This was the god of nature, one of the three gods of Alicia. His strength was decent, but what intrigued Yuziyu more was... Narrowing his eyes, Yuziyu looked at his status screen. Race, Deity Tier, Tier 4 Authority, Power of Nature, the ability to harmonize and balance nature, controlling the growth of all things. Unique abilities, Harmonization, easily stabilizes the state of nature, ensuring balance and tranquility. Growth Acceleration, by consuming divine energy accelerates the growth of all things. Healing, uses divine energy to heal others, rapidly restoring their health and vitality. Nature's Halo, channels divine energy to create a radiant halo, significantly enhancing the healing speed within its radius. Light of Nature, summons a beam of green light that can pierce through anything. After taking a deep look, Yuziyu could not help but find it amusing, for he realized why the god of nature could not raise his head in Alicia. Leaving aside the fact that the god of orcs, who was also the god of war, could easily and thoroughly suppress him, his abilities were about 50 to 60% similar to those of the Tree of Life. However, while the Tree of Life had already stepped into the demigod realm, he was still stuck at the intermediate level of Tier 4. Even in terms of abilities, he was still far behind by a huge margin. In other words, he was just a low-grade version of the Tree of Life. As a matter of fact, just like how the Tree of Life gave birth to the elves, he mimicked her and gave birth to the first druids on Alicia. Thus, he became the father of the druid race. What a pitiable god! Yuziyu didn't hide the pity on his face. A god like this truly had no potential. Among the gods, he was nothing more than an ant. In fact, while the title of god sounds grand, they placed great importance on their so-called authority. This authority was essentially the innate talent of all things. However, compared to ordinary innate talents, authority was on a higher level. This was because authority, as it grew, also fed back to the world, and thus granted its wielder the ability to control parts of the world. For example, the god of dreams' authority was dreams, so she could control the dreams of all beings on Alicia. The god of orcs' authority was war, so war was the core of his strength. If an ordinary being's innate talent was lacking, it could be compensated for through effort. However, if a god's authority was lacking, that was it for them, there was no way to compensate for it. This was the core reason why the god of nature held such a low position among the three gods. Compared to the god of orcs and the god of dreams, he was completely out of the competition. After all, the Tree of Life had long been born into this world. In some sense, the existence of the Tree of Life had greatly diminished his control over nature on Alicia. Moreover, the most important thing was that his authority, power of nature, did not have much potential for growth. As the gods would say it, authority was ranked in levels, and the god of nature's authority was low level. Though you're quite useless, your existence holds great value to me. As Yuziyu murmured, a certain corner within the pocket of void began to slowly tear apart. In an instant, a massive rift appeared as a dragon head as large as a mountain emerged from the other side. This head belonged to the Azure Dragon, Yuziyu's primary root. Now, it had set its sights on a god, and all of this was because the god of nature's existence was nothing short of a precious tonic for Yuziyu's Azure Dragon form. If he could successfully seize this god's authority, Yuziyu's Azure Dragon form could become the god of the 9 space pockets, thereby gaining control over the growth of all things within them. After all, the 9 space pockets were just one step away from becoming small worlds. Now that step was about to be taken. The more perfect the 9 space pockets became, the higher the chances of them becoming small worlds. What was a god? To simply put it, they were a higher form of life nurtured by a world, exercising the authority granted by their world. The stronger the world, the stronger the gods birthed by it. As the master of the 9 space pockets, Yuziyu's goal was to seize the authority of the god of nature, allowing the Azure Dragon to become not just the god of nature, but more accurately the god of life. At that point, under the guidance of the Azure Dragon, the likelihood of the 9 space pockets becoming small worlds would greatly increase. Of course, this was not the most important thing. What was most important was, at the thought of this, a glint of amusement flashed in Yuziyu's eyes as he looked at the small tree, about the size of a palm, atop the Azure Dragon's head. This small tree was the Tree of Life, the pinnacle powerhouse of Alicia. Now she had become the spirit familiar of the Azure Dragon. Have I become a god slayer? Yuziyu murmured to himself, a trace of amusement spreading across his face. Gods to him now were nothing extraordinary. But then again, what were gods if not a higher race? They were simply rarer compared to other races like elves or dragons. In fact, there was a saying in the previous era that the more gods a world birthed, the stronger that world was. However, even the most powerful worlds only birthed a few thousand gods. Such worlds were already towering above all others, true behemoths in every sense. According to Golden Monkey, such a world was known as the Pantheon. With a faint smile in his heart, Yuziyu, whose consciousness had descended into the Azure Dragon form, lifted his gaze and looked deeply at the emerald green light not far away. As his gaze sharpened, a line of clear text appeared before him. Authority, power of nature, the ability to harmonize and balance nature, controlling the growth of all things. Authority, the innate talent of a god, could also be called their dominion. It was a powerful ability granted by the world's prime consciousness. Right now, the significance of this authority to Yuziyu was more of a reference. After all, this authority governed the nature of Alicia. As such, this authority would serve little to no influence in other worlds, unless that world had no gods, or had already been corrupted by Alicia's prime consciousness. This was also why gods loved to instigate wars between gods. Their power depended on the strength of their world. Only through the continuous expansion of their world would their authority grow increasingly terrifying. Right then, a majestic dragon roar reverberated through the pocket of void, as Yuziyu, controlling his Azure Dragon form, slowly opened its gaping maws. A terrifying suction emerged from its mouth, drawing in the ball of green light into it. Boom! Immediately, with a thunderous ring shaking his mind, countless scenes started flashing through Yuziyu's mind. A small blade of grass took root in a meadow, living through the cycles of the seasons. A tree rose from the ground, standing tall for a century. More frighteningly, Yuziyu seemed to become an entire forest, sprawling in some corner of the world. At this moment, Yuziyu felt as if he had become all the elements of nature. An extremely mysterious and enigmatic aura radiated from him. So, this is the perspective of a god. Yuziyu could not help but murmur in his heart as the realization dawned upon him. These images were the world seen through the eyes of the god of nature. He was the god of nature, and in an ordinary world, he would have been the embodiment of nature. With a raise of his hand he could trigger floods. With a wave he could unleash tsunamis. However, this was not an ordinary world, and they were in the era of transcendence. In this era, the strong could flatten mountains, cut rivers, and overturn the seas. The so-called nature was no longer something to be feared. As a result, the authority of the god of nature had drastically diminished. Not to mention, there were also the god of dreams and the god of orcs vying for dominion over Alicia. And let's not forget the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life had always been a thorn in his heart. As the popular adage from Earth goes, why is there another genius since there has been one? A divine tree like the Tree of Life might not be a true god, but her existence was in no way inferior to that of a god. More importantly, the Tree of Life surpassed him by several measures. Hiya! With a soft sigh, Yuziyu could not help but feel a tinge of sympathy for the plight of the god of nature. However, all of that was now in the past because Yuziyu's Azure Dragon form would soon reside deep within the 9 space pockets, transforming into a new generation of God, an almighty and supreme God. Roar. Suddenly, a majestic dragon roar echoed, causing all 9 space pockets to tremble. Immediately after, under the astonished and horrified gazes of countless entities across the 9 space pockets, the sky suddenly started to shatter. It cracked like a broken mirror. At the same time, an unimaginably massive figure emerged from the fractured sky. Covered in verdant scales, the massive body resembled a giant serpent. Each scale was as large as a grindstone, and emitted a faint fluctuating glow. The massive figure gave the aura of nobility and extraordinariness, as well as an indescribable sense of terror. Roar. The dragon's roar grew louder and louder, reverberating throughout the 9 space pockets. Meanwhile, in the stunned gazes of powerful transcendence residing in the pocket of life, like the mermaid queen Elsa and 9 tails, a colossal dragon head appeared. It resembled a towering mountain with its long whispers gracefully dancing in the wind. The pocket of life was the core of the 9 realms of heavens, while the pocket of void was the most mysterious and the last of them all. Thus, crack. With a crisp crack, an enormous azure dragon tail extended into the pocket of void. This was the current form of Wuxia's azure dragon, an incredibly massive body coiled above the skies of the 9 realms of heaven. I shall bear the will of the 9 realms and become the guardian of this world, its guide. I shall lead the 9 realms toward prosperity and strength. An ethereal voice echoed throughout the 9 space pockets, sounding both like a vow. Simultaneously, as if in response, boom, 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 one after another, the second-generation Gianmus supporting the 9 realms began to flicker with radiant green light. Right at that very moment, rumble, rumble, a deafening roar erupted at the ends of each space pocket. Visible to the naked eye, the boundaries of each realm started expanding endlessly. Concurrently, each second-generation Jianmu, as if infused with newfound power, began to grow continuously. They pushed the skies higher and pressed the earth deeper. If one were to observe closely, they would notice azure dragons coursing along the trunks of these second-generation Gianmus. The azure dragons slithered and extended, transforming into dragon-shaped patterns that entwined around the tree trunks. Jinmu connected heaven and earth. Under Wuxia's deliberate guidance, the azure dragon now carried the consciousness of the 9 realms of heaven, becoming an existence akin to heaven itself. Serving as the bridge to the azure dragon, these second-generation Gianmus also received the azure dragon's blessing, growing sturdier and brimmed with greater vitality. In just a few breaths, forests stretched out as far as the eye could see, astonishing the many mutant beasts. And this was only just the beginning. Roar, a thunderous dragon roar echoed through the sky. The next moment, dark clouds began to swirl in the skies before a gentle rain began to fall. However, this was no ordinary rain. It was a spirit rain, infused with abundant life force. Bathing in it, even Tier 3 mutant beasts would greatly benefit from it. The earth erupted with the essence of life, the skies poured down spirit rain. Yet this was still not the end. A smile crossed Wuxia's lips as a profound insight emerged within his mind, leading him to undertake the most extraordinary and defiant act, creating life. A complete world did not only have perfect principles, the movement of celestial bodies also should have life that belongs to it. However, not every small world possessed the ability to create life. Yet, one thing was certain. If a small world ever wished to ascend to become a great world, the creation of life was paramount. Right now, as the master of this world, the azure dragon would take place of heaven and create life. However, it was not the azure dragon who would be creating the life, but his companion weapon, the tree of life, instead. Tree of life. Following the resonant dragon roar, the small tree only the size of a palm, perched atop the azure dragon's head, suddenly trembled. Yes, my master. Having already understood the azure dragon's intent, the tree of life shot out from the azure dragon head. Swoosh, like a shooting star, the tree of life streaked toward a mountaintop. Soon afterward, she took root on the peak, her roots spreading about and her trunk growing rapidly. In just a few breaths, she had transformed into a towering tree over 1,000 meters tall. At this moment, if one were to observe closely, they would notice the leaves on the massive tree flickering with light, as immense life energy began to gather. Visible to the naked eyes, buds started to grow on the tree of life, one by one. Not too many, not too few, exactly 9. At that very moment, Wuxia was struck with an idea. His spiritual energy surged fiercely as the 9 space pockets began to tremble simultaneously, accompanied by a series of loud rumbles. Visible to the naked eye, A beam of light rose from each space, all converging toward the pocket of life where the tree of life resided. Soon afterward, the sky of the pocket of life shattered like a mirror as a total of 8 beams of spiritual energy descended from the sky. These beams, along with the green beam rising from the pocket of life itself, simultaneously shot toward the 9 flower buds on the tree of life, assimilating into the 9 buds. In an instant the colors of the 9 buds started to change. The beam from the pocket of void dyed one bud a deep purple. The beam from the pocket of fire turned another bud into a fiery crimson. This was the perfect synergy between Wuxia and the tree of life, giving birth to life, a life that belonged solely to this world. Moreover, it was fused with the quintessence of the 9 space pockets, transforming into primordial life. Wuxia named them primordial elves, a powerful race far superior to the elves. There were only 9 of them, perhaps there would always be just 9, but each one was a child of heaven, or rather, a child of the world. They would be born as Tier 4 transcendents, and possess the perfect form of an elf. As for the rest, there was no need to say more. With a grin, Wuxia gazed at the 9 flower buds on the tree of life, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. Vaguely he could already see a humanoid figure within each of the 9 buds, being nurtured like a newborn. As for how long this nurturing process would take, Wuxia did not know, nor did he wish to know. However, one thing was certain. The longer they were nurtured, the more terrifying their potential would become. After all, with Wuxia's tacit approval, the tree of life had already begun to draw power from the 9 space pockets. The advancement of the 9 space pockets to the small worlds appeared to be utterly silent from the outside. At least, Dragon Island remained calm and tranquil. All that could be noticed was the faint tremor in the 9 vortices of varying colors swirling around Wuxia, with their depths growing increasingly profound. Of course, as independent realms, the small worlds was capable of isolating most perceptions from the outside world. Moreover, Wuxia possessed not just 1 but 9 small worlds. They interconnected with each other, and their combined ability to block out external perceptions had been significantly enhanced. It could be said that Wuxia's 9 realms of heaven's ability to isolate the senses of heaven and earth was not inferior to that of an ordinary great world, enough to resist the prying eyes of hegemons and even some eternals. As for the consciousness of cosmic source, unless Wuxia did something truly defiant that drew its attention, it would never cast its vast gaze upon him. After all, the rise of a small world or even a great world was far too insignificant for it. As far as Wuxia knew, only beings at the eternal realm or beyond, entities so terrifying they defy description, could attract the attention of the consciousness of cosmic source. Only such beings could potentially overturn the universe. Of course, the calm appearance on the outside did not mean there was peace on the inside. In Wuxia's scrutinizing gaze, the 9 space pockets seemed to be in utter turmoil, almost on the level of heaven and earth turning upside down. The space pockets kept expanding endlessly, soon reaching the size of a continent on Earth. The land, oceans, and even the skies underwent wondrous transformations. What intrigued Wuxia the most were the countless stars in the skies. Originally, these stars had been part of the stellar formation laid out by Wuxia using his star dagger, drawing in endless starlight. Now, these countless stars seemed to have come to life, endlessly revolving in the skies of the 9 space pockets. With each rotation they carried a portion of the stars with them. For instance, as these groups of stars rose in the east and set in the west while traversing the pocket of fire, the sky became brilliantly illuminated, and the concentration of spiritual energy increased significantly. But soon after, as they set behind the mountains, a boundless night descended upon the pocket of fire. This was the sky of Wuxia's 9 small worlds. Thousands of stars acted as the sun, bathing each world in endless starlight. Then, as the stars set, the world would seemingly fall into darkness. If these countless stars can bring the world into day, then surely there should also be a touch of moonlight in the boundless night. Muttering to himself, Wuxia's consciousness descended into the pocket of life. Deep within the pocket of life stood a tree that seemed to be covered in morning frost, quietly towering over the landscape. This was one of Wuxia's apostles, sweet Osmanthus. Of course, this was not the Osmanthus' true form, but rather an avatar she had nurtured from a root firmly planted in Wuxia's pocket of life. This way, even if separated by thousands of kilometers, she could still communicate with Wuxia through this avatar. However, it took a huge toll on the psychic power. Prolonged conversations would likely be too much for Osmanthus to handle. Osmanthus, as Wuxia softly called out, the distant white and shiny tree trembled. Immediately. Master. Responding in excitement, the consciousness of the true immortal sweet osmanthus tree rooted on the distant moon also descended. I need this avatar of yours to guard the night for me to take on the role of the moon. Would that be all right? In a rare moment of solicitation, Wuxia requested with a shadow of a smile. Guard the night? Momentarily stunned, Osmanthus finally noticed the drastic change in the space pocket. After a brief pause, as if she understood something, Osmanthus exclaimed in delight, Master, could this be? Yes. Nodding, Wuxia confirmed her suspicions. Then, glancing at Osmanthus once more, Wuxia explained frankly, Now, my azure dragon form is in harmony with heaven and earth, which allows me to confer someone as a deity. If you are willing, I shall grant you the title of Moon Goddess, and you shall henceforth rule over the night of the 9 realms. Hearing this, a look of excitement appeared on Osmanthus' face. As a divine tree with an ancient heritage, she naturally understood what it meant to become a deity, not quite a god but akin to one. A profound and fearsome existence that was in harmony with the world and wielded a portion of its authority. Master, I am willing, she responded immediately, her voice carrying an indescribable excitement. Wuxia nodded slightly in response, pleased with her choice. Then, his consciousness returned to his azure dragon form. Boom! In an instant, an inexplicable sensation enveloped Wuxia. At that moment he seemed to be one with the heavens and earth. Raising his eyes, he saw the vast starry sky of the 9 realms of heaven. Lowering his gaze, he beheld the lush, expansive land below. So this is what it feels like to carry world's consciousness, Wuxia murmured, a sudden understanding dawning in his heart. It was not a simple change but a transformation in the hierarchy of life. At this moment he was the ruler of the world. The entire 9 realms of heaven were under his command, bending at his slightest whim. If necessary, he could even wield the power of the 9 realms of heaven, the strength of all 9 small worlds combined, to suppress anything. However, such an act could potentially severely damage the 9 realms of heaven. While it might be suitable for subduing weaker beings, using it against stronger opponents could lead to catastrophic backlash. Unless absolutely necessary, Wuxia would never resort to using this power. Hiya! Heaving a long deep breath, calming the sudden surge of emotions, Wuxia's fierce dragon eyes narrowed as he channeled his divine energy. When he assumed the mantle of world consciousness, his spiritual energy, infused with the world's quintessence, had transformed into divine energy. This highlighted the fact that the so-called divine energy was merely a higher form of spiritual energy. There was not a significant difference between the two. Aside from divine energy, there were also demon energy, mana, and other such energies, all variations of spiritual energy. However, compared to the balanced nature of spiritual energy, these other forms were more intensely colored by their respective races. For example, demon energy, primarily used by Demon Beast Clan, was more volatile than spiritual energy. Divine energy, mostly used by the gods, was grander and more powerful compared to regular spiritual energy. From now on, Osmanthus will rule over the night as the moon goddess of the 9 realms of heaven. As Wuxia murmured, his vast voice echoing in the hearts of all living beings within the 9 realms of heaven. Then, as if his words were a decree, under the astonished gaze of countless powerful beings, a white tree, seemingly crafted from jade, along with the half-continent it was rooted in, soared into the sky, shooting straight into the depths of the night sky. Boom! A sudden thunderous explosion shook all the 9 space pockets as the half-continent on which Osmanthus was rooted began to crumble, disintegrating into countless fragments. Right at this moment, with a powerful surge in spiritual energy of Osmanthus, a fearsome pull emanated from her, drawing in the countless fragments of the half-continent with successive claps, taking the shape of a massive sphere. This was unmistakably a miniature version of Earth's moon. I still need a place to put down roots to feel comfortable. One day when the small worlds expands, I'll just bring the real moon here, stated Osmanthus in a sweet and melodious voice, as melodious as chimes of silver bells. Her branches swayed gently, showering the ground with moonlight, bathing the land in a dreamy glow. As Wuxia bestowed the title of Moon Goddess upon Osmanthus, an inexplicable feeling, profound and mysterious, suddenly emerged in his heart. Faintly, Wuxia felt as though this world had become more complete. Indeed, this made sense. The key difference between a small world and an alternate space lay in the word, complete. The strength of a small world depended on its completeness. It grew stronger as it progressed further towards perfection. In return, the feedback to Wuxia's main body would also become stronger and more terrifying. As a popular adage on Earth goes, A crow knows to repay kindness by caring for its parents, and a young goat kneels in humility while accepting milk from its mother. Similarly, the small world, having benefited from Yu's meticulous care and efforts in raising it to the level of a small world, would repay him in kind. At this moment, the 9 space pockets, or 9 realms now to be exact, seemed to have sensed Yu's thoughts. Ashish was using 9 space pockets until now because they were really alternate spaces. While they are still alternate spaces, they have grown into worlds. So, I will be referring to them as 9 realms, and their names would also be correspondingly changed. Boom! With thunderous rumbles, all 9 realms trembled violently. Then, to Yu's delight, with an earth-shattering roar, a pure and terrifying energy surged into Yu's main body. In an instant, a tremor passed through Yu's entire body. Then his body rooted on Dragon Island, originally towering at a height of over 100 meters, began to grow uncontrollably. Boom, 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 sending fearsome tremors through Dragon Island again and again, his roots spread about, extending deep into Dragon Island, further into the ocean and even into the depths of planet Alicia. These roots, like mighty flood dragons, roared as they stirred the entire sea. To the naked eye, shadows as vast as continents spread rapidly from the waters surrounding Dragon Island. These were Yu's roots, and that was just the size of a single one. Many more roots extended in other directions. At the same time, Yu's trunk, rooted on Dragon Island, shot up into the sky. In just a few breaths, it had grown into its full form. Towering into the clouds, its crown, now as large as several megacities on Earth, blocked out the sun. More importantly, this expansion was still continuing. Yu was having difficulty controlling it and even harder to manage it. The vast, galaxy-like power surged through every inch of Yu's body. At this moment, if anyone knowledgeable about Earth's cosmos were present, they would immediately recognize the scene within the vast vortex. It resembled none other than the solar system where Earth was located. In the center, there was a blurry yet radiant figure, akin to a massive tree, shining as brilliantly as the sun. Surrounding it were swirling vortices, resembling stars, representing the 9 planets orbiting the sun in an endless cycle. This was the pattern of the 9 vortices of different colors encircling Yu, mirroring the cosmos. Back when Yu first studied formations, he used the cosmos as his subject. Rooted on the moon, he observed the entire solar system day and night. The stars served as the foundation, with the 9 planets acting as nodes, moving in endless cycles, subtly aligning with the Tao. This was why the 9 small worlds surrounding Yu now resemble the 9 planets of the solar system. In a way, Yu had modeled them after these celestial bodies. The realm of life represented Earth, the vibrant and beautiful planet with life. The realm of fire was the ever-scorching Mars. The realm of Earth mirrored Saturn. Each of the 9 spaces corresponded to a planet, embodying the movements of these celestial bodies. However, the fact was that this understanding was still quite superficial. Yu had yet to fully comprehend the true Tao of star movements. If he could, in the near future he planned to return to the solar system, root himself in outer space, and observe the celestial movements day and night, hoping to gain deeper insight into the Tao. Despite this, Yu could feel that his connection with the 9 realms had grown a bit stronger. Once he had truly understood the movements of the planets, these 9 realms might transform into actual celestial bodies, perpetually revolving around him. When necessary, Yu could even use these 9 realms as weapons, hurling them at enemies. At that point, it would be like hurling a planet, capable of obliterating everything in their path instantly. This was another application of Yu's grand divine ability, the 9 realms of heaven. If the 9 realms protection was the defensive aspect of the 9 realms of heaven, then transforming the realms into celestial bodies and using them as weapons was the offensive aspect of the 9 realms of heaven. As a grand divine ability, it was both offensive and defensive, flawless in its design. Furthermore, it could even be used to trap enemies. However, to trap someone, Yu would need to understand the gravitational forces between celestial bodies. By using the 9 realms to lay a formation, he could create an endless gravitational field that would pull everything towards him. In the end, there were countless ways to utilize the 9 realms of heaven. It was just a matter of Yu mastering them. At this moment, aside from the grand divine ability, the 9 realms of heaven, Yu, empowered by the feedback from the 9 realms, successfully ascended to Tier 6. Crack. With a crisp clap, the wind stopped blowing and the world became completely quiet. It was as if everything had come to a standstill. However, after a brief pause, boom, An earth-shaking roar reverberated through the world as an overwhelming pressure erupted from Wuxia. In an instant, roar, a mournful dragon cry echoed as the mighty lightning dragon in the sky, caught off guard, was slammed to the ground, crashing heavily onto Wuxia's tree roots. And it was not just the lightning dragon. One by one, the powerful beings floating in the air fell like raindrops, their eyes filled with disbelief. Even the mighty Sarcosuchus, who had been standing on Wuxia's roots, shuddered, its short, stout limbs sinking deep into the roots. Terrifying, the pressure was terrifying beyond measure. It was as majestic as divine might. Even those at Tier 4 natural disaster class powerhouses could not withstand it. At this moment, both Little Tenth and Sarcosuchus gazed at the figure obscuring the stars in the distance, feeling as if they had returned to their beginnings, once again as insignificant as ants. Seemingly realizing Wuxia's ascension, a murmur escaped the Little Tenth, his eyes shimmering with tears. Master has broken through. Master has truly broken through. In this instant, an overwhelming joy, even greater than if he had broken through himself, completely consumed Little Tenth. As the youngest of the 9 beasts, Little Tenth had been nurtured by Wuxia from the very beginning. Perhaps it was out of dependence, or perhaps it was due to Wuxia's affinity, but Little Tenth had always regarded Wuxia as a father figure. Now with Wuxia's breakthrough, how could Little Tenth not be excited? Nearby, the Sarcosuchus' deep and profound dragon eyes, which seemed to burn with golden flames, also showed a flash of wild joy. Ha! Even the coldest mutant beasts laughed out loud at this moment, unable to contain his excitement. These guys, listening to the voices of Little Tenth and Sarcosuchus, Wuxia shook his head helplessly. However, deep within his eyes, a rare trace of emotion surfaced. With his keen perception, he could easily tell that this was a genuine expression of affection from Old Fourth and Little Tenth. If Wuxia were ever to face a crisis, these two would undoubtedly stand fearlessly in front of him. Understanding this, Wuxia suppressed the surge of emotion in his heart and continued to savor this once-in-a-lifetime breakthrough. As for Old Fourth, Little Tenth, and the others, he would make sure to care for them more in the future. But for now, this breakthrough was something he absolutely could not afford to miss. With this thought, Wuxia's consciousness once again sank into his true form. Boom! A fearsome gale blew away the clouds, blowing through the entire Elysia. The entire planet seemed to barely withstand the increasingly terrifying aura. At this moment, the countless denizens on the Elysian continent bowed down, gazing in awe and terror towards the extreme east, where a vast vortex of stars had risen at horizon. What kind of power is this? In disbelief, the primordial monitor lizard, a creature powerful enough to rival the Dragon King, emerged from the depths of the forest of magical beasts, horror clearly written on its face. It was not the only one. The Bone Dragon King, an undead creature that had emerged from the treacherous territory, dark forest, had his eyes flickered like ghostly flames, pulsating rapidly. Clearly, his emotions were anything but calm at this moment. In fact, it could be said that he was filled with a sense of despair. You've got to be kidding me? At this time, a Tier 6 Transcendent has emerged, and not just any ordinary Tier 6 at that? With a nearly shrill scream, the Bone Dragon King's spirit fluctuated like never before. In fact, he was not just any ordinary bone dragon. He used to be an extremely powerful dragon in the previous era. Using a heaven-defying secret technique, he had somehow managed to reincarnate to this new era with a wisp of his remnant soul. His original plan was to seize the great opportunity of this era's restart to ascend to the peak of all races. However, now, while he was still honing his Tier 4 abilities, preparing to step into Tier 5, someone had silently and stealthily ascended to Tier 6. You've got to be kidding me, right? What a freaking monster. It has at most been 100 years since the resurgence of spiritual energy. Even in the last era, if someone reached Tier 3 in 100 years, they were already considered a monstrous prodigy. Yet, this freaking monster has reached Tier 6 in less than 100 years. Tier 6, it was the pinnacle of any individual's evolution in life, also known as the realm of perfection. At this realm, the body continuously refines itself, unifying essence, energy, and soul to achieve near perfection. However, everyone's form at this realm was often diverse. Some transcendents gained an ethereal body, some possessed physical bodies, some became plant-based life forms. Yet, despite the myriad forms of life, all beings that managed to reach Tier 6 continue to refine themselves to become more perfect. However, in reality, true perfection did not exist. It never existed, and neither did anyone dare to claim that they have achieved perfection. Thus, all beings strive to approach what they perceive as perfection. And this perfection had almost no limits. In other words, Tier 6 was a realm with no boundaries. As for the realms beyond Tier 6, they delve into the terrifying domain of Tao's and principles. At that stage, the key was the comprehension of principles. Even if some tempered their bodies using principles, that was just an application of principles. Therefore, some transcendents could quickly comprehend these principles after reaching Tier 6 and step into Tier 7 in one go. Others, however, may spend millions of years at Tier 6 without ever stepping into Tier 7. The reason for this was that Tier 6, the realm symbolizing the pinnacle of one's evolutionary path, was incredibly mysterious. In a sense, no life form had truly reached the end of their evolutionary path. Even in the last era, the human immortals paused at Tier 6 for just 10,000 years before stepping into Tier 7. However, there were myths of the Blood Lake that had reached Tier 6 in the last era. With its own power, it transformed into a vast blood sea, continuously refining itself and eventually becoming an endless ocean of blood. Although it was only a Tier 6 transcendent, even Tier 7 hegemons were unwilling to provoke it. This illustrated the terrifying potential of pushing Tier 6 to its limits. The idea of a Tier 6 transcendent standing against a Tier 7 transcendent was not just a myth. By continuously tempering oneself, it was theoretically possible to defy the power of principles. Thus, in the last era, a classification system for Tier 6 was established, known as the 9 Orders of Tier 6. Each order represented a further refinement and perfection of one's being. According to rumors, the human immortal, who had remained at Tier 6 for 10,000 years, finally reached the 6th order and decided to advance to Tier 7 without hesitation. As for that vast blood sea, it had reached the 7th order. Throughout the endless years of that era, only a few ever reached the 7th order. These formidable beings possessed terrifying combat strength, able to stand against a Tier 7 hegemon using just their physical bodies. In a way, it proved that even if Wuxia had been born in the previous era, he would still have been able to dominate his contemporaries. After all, the 9 Orders of Tier 6 not only symbolized a body approaching perfection but also served as a powerful measure of combat strength. As it stands, even those who had also reached Tier 6 would find it difficult to compete with Wuxia. Achieving the 4th order in one step spoke a lot. So, this means that even at Tier 5, my life form has already surpassed that of superior races like dragons, elves, and titans. Marveling, Wuxia's eyes flickered with a complex light. Even if only a single branch remains, you can regrow from it. Even if withered, you can return to life. You have truly become an immortal tree. Heaven cannot destroy it and the earth cannot bury it. Seeds of Life, Level 4. You can now use your spiritual energy to nurture seeds. It utilizes one's spiritual energy as the source of life to give birth to seeds. These seeds can grow into trees at such astonishing speed that a vast, ancient forest can be created within moments. Instant, Level 4. Fleeting moment flower blooms and withers an instant. Like fireworks, it's radiant and eternal. It's capable of freezing time in an instant. Absolute Evolution, Level 4. You can change parts of your own body into other forms for a short time according to your own cognition, and gain unique abilities. Note, the deeper the cognition, the more terrifying the form. Mastery of Lightning, Level 4. As a branch of elemental energy, the host can draw lightning and freely control it for defense, attack, or even shape his own attack to his own will. Unique abilities. Immortal Bark, Level 6. Your bark possesses extremely high elemental and physical resistance. Its defense surpasses even the hides of the most formidable mutant beasts such as dragon hide. Immortal Leaves, Level 6. Flowing with vitality, the leaves are crystal clear. They are a true treasure that possess the power of improving vision and calming the mind. They can also heal all wounds, even alleviating damage to the spirit. Immortal Roots, Level 6. Each root can transform into a flood dragon, capable of absorbing all things as nourishment and nurturing itself. Immortal Fruit, Level 6. A fruit nurtured by consuming immense power, it can resurrect the dead and grant ordinary people 10,000 years of life. However, it consumes a lot of energy and may even harm your quintessence. Immortal Mist Beast, Level 5. A new life form born from indestructible white fog, immortal and indestructible with immense combat power. Spiritual Field, Level 5. Hallucinogen, Level 4. River of Earth, Level 4. Flying Willow Leaf Blade, Level 5. Blood Covenant, Level 5. Snowstorm, Level 4. Crimson Heavenly Eye, Level 5. Minor Divine Ability, Crystallization, Elementary Level. Feather Firestorm, Elementary Level. Ice Age, Elementary Level. Summon Light, Elementary Level. Lightning Strike, Elementary Level. Enlarging and Shrinking at Will, Elementary Level. Grand Divine Ability, 9 Realms of Heaven, Intermediate Level. The 9 realms, having been already opened and grown into small worlds, possessed both offensive and defensive abilities. They can be used to create a star system to protect the host or transformed into vast stars to smash down. Wuxia's eyes widened in disbelief as he laid his eyes upon the status screen, a hint of disbelief flickering in his eyes. It was nothing short of terrifying. Setting aside those level 4 abilities, even the level 4 innate talents were things Wuxia had not had the time to fully hone yet. He originally planned to slowly polish them while still at Tier 5, but his plans could not keep up with the changes. He unexpectedly broke through while his 9 space pockets were evolving into small worlds. Wuxia found himself in a spot, not sure whether to laugh in happiness or smile wryly. As a result, his status screen now looked rather chaotic. There were level 4 abilities, level 5 abilities, and now even 4 level 6 abilities along with a level 6 innate talent. Immortal Tree, ha! Murmuring to himself, Wuxia realized he was walking further and further down the path of the Immortal Tree, with even his primary abilities becoming exclusive to the Immortal Tree. Looking at his branch abilities like the level 4 River of Earth and the level 5 Flying Willow Leaf Blade, Wuxia also understood that it was time to use evolution points to strengthen them. These particularly useful abilities must keep pace. As for other abilities like the level 4 Snowstorm, they were optional and could be discarded if necessary. Having more abilities was not always better, what matters was their usefulness. Although Wuxia's status screen now appeared luxurious, it was also overly cluttered. For now, the abilities Wuxia truly valued were his innate talents and those divine abilities. Among the unique abilities, Immortal Mist Beast, Flying Willow Leaf Blade, and Crimson Heavenly Eye were all worth developing. The Immortal Mist Beast did not need much discussion. It was part of Wuxia's Immortal Legion, excellent for keeping enemies preoccupied and entangled. It was also served as a manifestation of his abilities, making it quite convenient. Even when he reached Tier 7 in the future, it would still be useful. As for Flying Willow Leaf Blade being his primary killing move, it was indispensable. Now he could refine another willow leaf to use as a flying dagger. When that happens, his Tao-protecting weapon, Radiant Galaxy, would have an additional main blade further enhancing its power. Lastly, the Crimson Heavenly Eye also did not need further explanation. It too was one of his secret weapons. Wuxia was momentarily taken aback, a bit bewildered. My breakthrough actually alerted this great existence. At this moment, as if sensing his thoughts, that ancient voice chuckled and explained himself. If it were someone else, it wouldn't have mattered. But as the first being of this era to truly step into Tier 6, you naturally deserve my attention. Now you are worthy of being my equal, is that so? Murmuring softly, Wuxia did not lose his composure. Instead, he respectfully greeted, "Greetings, Lord Heaven Connecting." Ashish. The actual term here is Hegemon Heaven Connecting, but we will be addressing Tier 7 Transcendents as Lord throughout the translation. It also sounds better than calling them Hegemon. Ha! The Heaven Connecting Jinmu broke into laughter. He could not help but appreciate Wuxia's calm demeanor. Truly worthy of the one who refused the inheritance of Heaven Connecting Jinmu. His poise is indeed admirable. However, after a moment as if recalling something, Heaven Connecting Jinmu frankly stated, "Back then I owed you a karmic debt. Although it has been repaid, today I would like to form a good relationship with you. What do you think?" But of course, Wuxia promptly understood Heaven Connecting Jinmu's intentions and he nodded in agreement. Throughout many eras, the Heaven Connecting Jinmu's fate has never been good. Now, by forming a good relationship, it was also preparing for the future. Naturally, Wuxia had no reason to refuse this. After all, with a single misstep, he could become the next Heaven Connecting Jinmu, drawing the attention of all the myriad races. As the popular adage goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Revered as the greatest grand divine ability of the Taoist sect, when cultivated to advanced level, it could create 3 avatars of oneself. 4 versions of oneself working together. How much would that increase one's combat strength? 10-fold? 20-fold? Of course, the most formidable aspect of this grand divine ability was not the increase in combat strength but its ability to simulate the mysteries of creation through the principle of 3 gives birth to all things, breaking through calamities and achieving unity with the Tao, thus allowing one to seize great fortune and opportunity from the unseen. Such a grand divine ability, let alone in this era, even in the previous era, was a legend among legends, a true taboo. And now, Wuxia was asking about this grand divine ability? Boom! A thunderous clap echoed through the sky as a bolt of lightning, 1,000 meters thick, suddenly struck down from the depths of the starry sky, as if heaven itself was responding. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening explosion, so loud that it drowned all other sounds, giving the impression that the world had come to a standstill. Wuxia's main body suddenly shook. Simply because this lightning had struck directly at Wuxia's treetop. Heaven connecting Jinmu, after all, was the spokesperson of the heavenly Tao. Now that Wuxia was inquiring about a near-extinct taboo divine ability, it was no wonder the heavenly Tao reacted, sending down a heavenly punishment. Fortunately, this heavenly punishment was more of a warning. Otherwise, with Wuxia's current strength, he would have been severely injured, if not dead. After all, even that immortal of the human race had fallen under heavenly punishment. As soon as Wuxia asked the question, the starry sky gradually fell into a dead silence. A faint, inexplicable sense of terror began to rise. Even the starry sky seemed to grow oppressive. Countless denizens of Alicia were shaken to their core. But then, suddenly, do you know what the grand divine ability, 1 Qi transforms into 3 pure ones signifies? The voice of heaven connecting Jinmu echoed in Wuxia's mind, as if both asking and warning him. I know. Nodding, Wuxia frankly admitted, it is a legendary grand divine ability revered as the foremost ability in the Taoist sect. So extraordinary that ordinary people have never even heard of it, and even gods and sages have seldom seen it. At this point, Wuxia's tone changed as he added, however, this grand divine ability is crucial to my path to enlightenment. If I can find even a trace of it, I might have a chance at achieving eternity. Eater, Nighty, murmuring, heaven connecting Jinmu took a deep look at this tree which seemed to support 9 stars. At this moment he had fallen completely silent because even for someone like him, an eternal was an existence to be revered. And now, an individual who had only reached tier 6 dared to speak of hoping for eternity. As a matter of fact, these words, in the presence of heaven connecting Jinmu, and even in the presence of the heavenly Tao, could not be spoken lightly. Every word was like a stamp upon one's Tao heart. If these words were empty or boastful, then at the very moment Wuxia uttered, hoping for eternity, his Tao heart would have shattered. This alone demonstrated how firm Wuxia's Tao heart was. It also proved that the hope of attaining eternity through finding 1 Qi transforms into 3 pure ones was not mere talk. Even if the chance was only 1 in a trillion, it was still a possibility. After all, throughout countless eras, who had ever dared to claim they have a chance at attaining eternity? In one of the most brilliant eras, when countless geniuses and prodigies emerged, fewer than 10 ever attained eternity, and in some eras, not a single one succeeded. This was what eternity meant. Does finding the grand divine ability, 1 Qi transforms into 3 pure ones truly offer a chance at eternity? Murmuring in his heart, heaven connecting Jinmu closed his eyes, a rare feat on his part because at this moment, even his heart was churning like a raging sea. After a long time, as if making a firm decision, a flash of determination flashed through heaven connecting Jinmu's ancient and profound eyes. Immediately, his consciousness suddenly withdrew, disappearing into the depths of the starry sky. And then, after a moment, Immortal Tree, remember this, the Taoist sect's greatest grand divine ability cannot exist in this world. It is forbidden by the heavenly Tao. It is a terrifying ability that seeks to seize the great fortunes of the heavenly Tao. Still, heaven always leaves a sliver of hope, and being moved by the profound mystery of the grand divine ability, it could not bear to erase it in its entirety. Thus, traces of the Tao have been left behind. If you truly wish to find this unparalleled grand divine ability, you might want to visit the 10 superior clans. Only within those clans, which have stood above all for countless eras, might have the remnants of it. Again and again, heaven connecting Jinmu's ancient voice echoed in Wuxia's mind. Suddenly, Wuxia's pupils constricted as a flash of white light suddenly appeared at the edge of the starry sky. Visible to the naked eye, a sea of lightning as vast as a star system, engulfed the colossal tree silhouette shaped like an ox. Lord, Heaven, Connecting, Yuziyu could not help but murmur, a flash of understanding dawning upon Yuziyu. This must be the heavenly punishment for heaven connecting Jinmu, since he has revealed secrets of heaven. Fortunately, though terrifying, this lightning tribulation does not possess true world-destroying might. Clearly this was merely a punishment. After all, even though heaven connecting Jinmu had responded to Yuziyu's query, he did not specify the exact location of this grand divine ability. In other words, he managed to avoid the scrutiny of the consciousness of cosmic source. I owe you a great debt. With these words, a smile appeared on Yuziyu's face. At this moment, one thing was certain. He and heaven connecting Jinmu were now bound together. At the very least, in the future, if heaven connecting Jinmu were to face a crisis, Yuziyu could not stand idly by, even if it meant opposing all the races. But at that stage, would Yuziyu care? When heaven connecting Jinmu willingly endured the heavenly punishment to answer his question, everything became clear without needing to be said. Rather than calling us allies, it would be better to say we are friends. With a light chuckle, Yuziyu's consciousness sank into his mind, because heaven connecting Jinmu seemed to have left something behind in the deep recess of his mind. Meanwhile, far away deep within the starry sky. What a splendid bath! A cold ethereal voice, resembling a woman softly whispering in one's ear, suddenly echoed through the depths of the starry sky. With a thunderous roar from the unseen depths of the starry sky, the shadow of a divine tree, bearing resemblance to an ox, rose into the sky. Following that, a tall and slender figure emerged from the crown of this divine tree, gazing at the sea of lightning above her head. She did not utter a single word, all she did was furrowed her brow. Instantly, the starry sky trembled violently. Visible to the naked eye, countless branches, like mystical divine chains, erupted from this tall ethereal figure, extending across the starry sky and surging toward the sea of lightning. Swish, swish, swish. As the divine chains entered the sea of lightning, the turbulent sea of lightning gradually started calming. Soon, it fell into a stillness, resembling a serene, dark lake, allowing the divine chains to absorb it. Faintly, the tall, ethereal figure dressed in white grew increasingly breathtaking, truly resembling a deity beyond words. At this moment, as if sensing something, a voice suddenly reverberated through the starry sky. Honored self, heaven connecting Jinmu's ancient and majestic voice was tinged with rare respect. If Yuziyu or any other powerful transcendent were to hear this, they would likely turn pale. After all, even heaven connecting Jinmu addressed her with such respect. But then again, the two words that were spoken were, honored self. As for what this meant, apparently no one could say with certainty. However, one thing was certain. The heaven connecting Jinmu of this era, the spokesperson of the heavenly Tao, was anything but ordinary. At that moment, as if hearing this ancient voice, the tall ethereal figure dressed in white nodded slightly and stated, "You did well this time, that little one is worth our effort." Indeed. The ancient voice responded, his voice carrying a hint of pride. Before leaving, I deliberately lingered a bit longer. He must have seen the lightning tribulation above us. But before the ancient voice could finish, the cold voice interrupted, "This is but a parlor trick." As she spoke, the tall ethereal figure glanced at the starry sky and waved her hand. The next moment, a ripple of light spread through this part of the starry sky, seemingly sealing it. Having done this, she finally heaved a sigh and continued, "We are destined to face a calamity. Even now, even after having cultivated a Dharma avatar, we cannot escape it. What can we do?" The most famous of these were the Titan star domains and the Angel star domain, both not far from the Milky Way. In addition, there were many other star domains such as the Dragon Clan's Sacred Domain and the mysterious Dark Domain. These star domains were largely gathering places for the myriad races. Take the Titan star domains for instance. It was almost devoid of other species, inhabited only by the pure-blood divine Titan clan. Each one of them was as massive as a continent, drifting alone through the cosmos. These were the true pure-blood Titans. Not only were they enormous in size, but their combat power was also terrifying. Though they were only at Tier 4, they were powerful enough to crush other Tier 4 transcendents with a single strike. Of course, there were exceptions. Those with combat prowess far beyond their tier could still battle against them. Particularly the Void Clan, which could tear through their defenses. They were their natural enemy. As a result, the Divine Titan clan were especially wary of the Void Clan, which had emerged in this era. They had even organized large armies to exterminate them. However, the void space was vast, and even after decades, the Titans had not managed to eradicate most of the Void Clan. On the contrary, one of their most renowned prodigies was corrupted by a Void King, transforming into a fearsome fallen Titan. This event sparked a series of smaller-scale conflicts between the Void Clan and the Divine Titans within the Titan Star domain. Sylvan, turns of Jinmu is female. Well, that was a surprise. We'll start addressing it accordingly now. I don't feel like changing the past chapters would do justice to this reveal. Also, I'm too lazy to change everything. Yes, it is obvious because of the former. Titan Star Domain, Angel Star Domain. Murmuring to himself, Yuziyu could not help but sigh, the cosmos is truly magnificent. Nonetheless, this was precisely what he had hoped for from the myriad races of the universe. If he were the only one standing at the peak, would it not be lonely? He welcomed the rise of prodigies, nearly as powerful as him, in various star domains. He found this to be perfect. If he was not careful, even he could be surpassed one day. However, Yuziyu believed that day would never come, ever. After all, for someone like him, who had taken the lead by one step meant staying ahead at every step, until these so-called prodigies could no longer even see his shadow. Right now he had taken another step forward, reaching the fourth order of Tier 6, whereupon his combat power had nearly undergone a qualitative change. Yuziyu exhaled a long deep breath. His immense size, with a canopy that dwarfed planet Alicia, caused a tremendous disturbance in outer space with just his breath. To the naked eye, countless streams of spiritual energy surged toward him, converging into a vast storm. Not bad, Yuziyu praised in a soft murmur, feeling satisfied with his current strength. This is what a true Tier 6 transcendent should be like. Every movement should reverberate through the universe. If their full power gets unleashed, it could even shatter this section of the starry sky. With this thought, Yuziyu turned his gaze toward a distant purple moon, a small celestial body akin to the moon near Earth. Slowly lifting a branch, Yuziyu softly murmured, "Shatter." Immediately, a beam of emerald light suddenly zoomed through the starry sky, shooting towards the distant celestial body. Boom! With a terrifying explosion, the purple moon millions of kilometers away was pierced through in a single strike, leaving a hole the size of a bowl. In the distance, the emerald beam of light could be seen traveling further and further until it vanished into the depths of the starry sky. Then, boom! Another silent explosion reverberated through space, shaking the stars as a blast hundreds of times more terrifying than a nuclear explosion erupted at the farthest reaches of the starry sky. This was the power of a casual strike from Yuziyu, which had consumed a staggering million spiritual energy. Yet within a single breath, the spiritual energy he had expended was fully restored. Though the destructive power was terrifying, the recovery speed was even more astonishing. Everything about him screamed of the terrifying nature of a Tier 6 transcendent. When I step out of the Milky Way and venture into the cosmos, it will be the moment I awe the myriad races. Murmuring to himself, Yuziyu's massive form, which even obscured the stars, gradually faded away. To the naked eye, a rift in the void slowly opened, swallowing his entire body. Void teleportation, a terrifying ability derived from his deeper understanding of the Tao of Void, allowed Yuziyu to traverse vast distances across the starry sky. If not long ago Yuziyu could only roam freely within the solar system, now Yuziyu could travel across the Milky Way in an instant. For Yuziyu at this moment, the Milky Way was like the solar system had been to him not long ago. Although it would take time, give him a few decades, and he could traverse the entire Milky Way with ease. Of course, Yuziyu was not so foolish to waste his time on such a pointless feat. His time would be better served in refining his current cultivation realm. For now, he was simply using void teleportation to return to the solar system, the home of Earth. As he had said before, his grand divine ability, 9 realms of heaven, modeled its operation after the planetary bodies of the solar system. Now was the time to deepen his understanding. At the same time, Yuziyu could also use evolution points to strengthen certain abilities and organize his divine abilities. As for Earth and Alicia, he had left them to his subordinates to manage. He trusted that Nine Tails, Bull Demon, and the others would be able to handle the 2 worlds. Somewhere in the solar system, boom! Suddenly, a flash of purple appeared out of thin air, followed by a continuous stream of radiant purple light spilling across the sky. Amidst this dazzling purple light, a towering, sky-covering giant tree silently appeared in the dark and lonely space. As he lifted his gaze, the sun now seemed to have transformed into an eternal presence, shining at the edge of the cosmos. Surrounding it, the 9 planets crisscrossed in their orbits, spinning endlessly. Seeing the starry sky through the eyes of a Tier 6 transcendent makes it truly mysterious. Wuxia sighed, with the stars seemingly revolving in the depths of his eyes. Unfortunately, this insight is not profound enough to trigger a qualitative change. So, now seems like a good time to leisurely upgrade some abilities. With this thought, Wuxia began using evolution points to enhance one of his abilities, the Flying Willow Leaf Blade. Boom! With a sudden tremor, a mysterious force surged from deep within his body. Then, under Wuxia's smiling gaze, a crystalline jade-like willow leaf slowly rose, accompanied by 2 floating orbs. One was silver, a metallic silver, mysterious and brilliant. The other was green, brimming with life, nurturing boundless vitality. These were the Steel Elemental Heart and Wuxia's Tree Heart, 2 supreme treasures. And now, these 2 supreme treasures were rotating like a Tai Chi symbol around the willow leaf at the center, with faint silver rays and soft green light continuously flowing toward the willow leaf. Within just a few breaths, a silver flying dagger, emitting a sharp and chilling aura, materialized. This was Wuxia's 6th flying dagger, also one of the primary artifacts of the Tao protecting artifact, Radiant Galaxy. Not bad. Looking at the 6th flying dagger, Wuxia nodded in approval. Though it was refined casually, it has come together quite well. Next, I'll leave it in my spiritual energy sea to let it continuously get tempered by my vast and boundless spiritual energy day and night. With this in mind, with a flash of Wuxia's thought, the flying dagger cut into his immortal bark, and slowly sank into his body. However, this isn't enough. As if recalling something, Wuxia's attention turned to another ability, Crimson Heavenly Eye, the eye that bore the great divine ability, 9 realms of heaven. While it was just one eye, it could manifest in Wuxia's main body, the Azure Dragon, the soaring purple Flood Dragon, and the Void Elf. This was because the Heavenly Eye was actually the Heavenly Tao Eye, directly connected to Wuxia's soul and consciousness. From this, one could imagine just how terrifying this eye was. At this moment, System, enhance the Crimson Heavenly Eye. Ding, are you sure you want to consume 50 million evolution points to upgrade the Crimson Heavenly Eye to level 6? Yes. Wuxia agreed without a moment of hesitation. The Crimson Heavenly Eye not only bore the grand divine ability, 9 realms of heaven, but also allowed Wuxia to see the world more clearly, enabling him to comprehend the starry sky. With such a marvelous tool in his arsenal, how could Wuxia be concerned about spending evolution points? Moreover, though the evolution points consumed were significant, thanks to his apostles, Wuxia's evolution points were continuously replenished. In just half a day his evolution points had increased by 20 million. And all of this was because Wuxia had given his apostles a free rein to kill. Anyone who does not submit shall be killed without mercy. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.